Hello and welcome back to the Emotionless podcast. My name is Logan, and as always, I will be your host. This is episode 3 in a multi-part series, so if you haven't watched episode 1 and 2, which is the backstory part 1 and the backstory part 2, I highly recommend you watch those before you watch this to get all the content you need to understand this. Again, we're going to be talking about some pretty dark stuff later on in this series, so I'm just going to give another verbal trigger warning that if Title IX is offensive to you, or triggering for you, please click off this video now. Thank you. So, in our previous 2 videos, I kind of talked about how I met Claire and who Claire is and some issues I've had with Claire and, going to Disney with Claire and stuff like that. And so I ended off talking about how we slept over at one of our friends' apartments during a hurricane, and then we went to Disney. And that was a really fun day, don't get me wrong. But then, this was 20 days exactly after Disney that this started. We got into our first big fight, like really big fight, as friends get into. Although typically friends don't get in a fight a month and a half after meeting. Sorry if you hear various squawks or squeals. I have my 2 best friends on FaceTime while I'm recording this, and they're being morons. So, if you hear various squawks or squeals, that's them. They're dying of laughter right now over Snapchat filters. They're very special. So I'll never forget this fight because it was one of the most heartbreaking things that has ever happened in our relationship, other than what I'm going to get to later in this series. So basically, I don't exactly remember all the details, but Claire had said something awful to me at some point. Oh, wait, actually, I remember perfectly now. We were in some kind of a fight over Snapchat or something about her not taking me somewhere, and it got into dating for some reason. And I called Claire a cunt. I don't exactly remember what, snapped in me to make me call her that, but I called her a cunt. And she's like, oh, so you want to play that game? And then I was around with some guy on Tinder right before this, like a week before, and he was actually the first guy I ever sent a nude to, and he just ghosted me out of nowhere when we were planning to meet up and hook up, and he just ghosted me. This was when I was 18, and he just stopped talking to me out of nowhere, and I couldn't quite figure out why, and I was just heartbroken. And Claire knew that, so to hit a kind of a heartstring to really get back at me for calling her a cunt, she said to me, at least I can get a man to love me unlike you. And I will never forget those words. I will never forget her saying that to me, because it hurt so badly. And I think anybody who would have had that said to them would have been in pain. I mean, who can have somebody who they think is their best friend in the world tell them that they can get a man to love them unlike you and not be completely and utterly heartbroken? I don't know anybody who can. And if you can, props to you, man. I mean, you've got a wall of... Somebody must have really fucking hurt you to have walls that thick. And then she proceeded to call me a faggot. Which, if you don't know, that's an extremely offensive slur. That's an extremely offensive slur to a gay man. And that used to be one of my big trigger words. And nowadays, I'm just like, and? So, is that the best you got? Like, I am one, so what do you want? But back then, that really, really hurt me, and it really made me upset when people would call me that word. And I think Claire knew that, and Claire used that to her advantage. So I wrote Claire, Harry, Jack, James, whatever I called the other one, and the and Harry's roommate, who was also my friend, we'll call him Justin, because that's like a douchey boy name. Although he's not a douche, so maybe that's like not the right name, but we're gonna just go with it. Yeah. So I wrote Claire, Jack, Harry, and Justin all letters basically telling them how they've hurt me and how they've upset me and apologizing to them for things I've done to them and giving them the option to apologize to me. And they all chose not to. They chose to lock themselves in the apartment above me. And Harry's bedroom, where Claire camped out for 3 days, was right above my bedroom because he was right in the apartment above me, and they're mirror each other. They are designed exactly the same. And so Claire, and this was through a weekend, so I didn't have classes to go to. I mean, I did some homework, so I wasn't in my apartment at all times, but I was in my apartment for quite a variety of times. Claire decided that she was going to talk shit about me directly below me, or I mean above me. And I heard every word she said. And I'll never forget a majority of them. She said I was useless, that I couldn't be trusted, that I had ulterior motives as to why I was friends with them, that I was just not a good person, that I didn't really care about any of them. Just horrible stuff that you just don't say about a person, especially a person that you call your so-called best friend. So it was just really hard to hear. It was hard to sleep at night. It actually got to the point where I ran to my RD, who was in an apartment right across from me, crying in the middle of the night because I just could not sleep listening to that. Just listening to that. Because to really dig at my heartstrings, they actually got down on the floor and were yelling this stuff into the floor, so it would go directly through the floor, into the ceiling, into my room. So it was like having a speaker of people saying these things on repeat all night. And one of my idiot friends who's on FaceTime, I actually called them crying as well. And I just remember her saying, they're worthless, forget about them, all this shit. But no, that's not how I operate. I am way too forgiving. I forgive everyone for everything, no matter what they do to me. You can literally shoot my dog in the face and I'll give you a pizza. Like, like, I'm sorry to laugh, but that's the truth. Like, you could literally shoot my mother in the face and I'll give you a trophy. Like, I'll feel horrible. I'll be like, it's my fault somehow, or whatever else. Like, I don't know. It's bad. I'm working on it in therapy. Leave me alone. So I wrote out these ridiculously long letters. Let me see if I can actually find them. Because if I can, that would be fucking hilarious. They're waving at you right now. You can't see it, but they're waving at you. Let's see. Let me see. Hang on one moment. I'm trying to see if I can find it. I think it's on my other account. I'm gonna have to cut out all this dead time. Wait, no, that's not the right email. At gmail.com. There you go, Logan. Alright, so I can't unfortunately find the letters in question. I'll take a look in some of my other archives and see if I can find them. Archives, I sound like a historian. Um, but I wrote this whole letter out to her, basically telling her, I'm so sorry, I'm a horrible friend, can we be friends again? And I gave it to her, and she took a couple days to process it, and then she came back to me in the middle of the night one night, and she, she was like, yeah, we can be friends again, but just don't call me like a whore or a slut anymore, because I used to like playfully call her those names. And she'd call them just same back to me, so it's not like it was a one-way conversation. But she would say horrible things back to me just as much as I did to her. I think I probably said more ultimately, but we make do with what we have. And that's kind of how our first fight really happened. And what really happened during that fight. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed. As always, my name is Logan, and I hope to see you again real soon. Remember to take care of your mental health and call people if you need to talk to them. Your friends are there for you. Your friends are your friends for a reason. Reach out to them if you need someone to talk to. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day. All right, Clown, you want to say anything?